Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today is Easter actually, so happy Easter. I'm not sure if you guys will actually be watching this on Easter, but anyway, happy Easter. So today I'm going to be telling you guys my birth story, something that I have been wanting to do for a very long time now. It's been almost 4 weeks since I gave birth. I did write down my birth story so I could remember it because as of right now it's very foggy and like a lot of the details like I've almost forgotten, so I'm glad that I wrote them down. But yeah, I gave birth to my son 3 weeks and 3 days ago. Let's just get right into it. So if you didn't know, my son, his name is DaKai. We call him Kai for short, so that's who I'm referring to if I say Kai. But let's get started off with March 1st. So March 1st, I went in for my 34-week appointment and I was just assuming that it was gonna be a normal appointment. The week before, I was actually hospitalized for 2 days due to preeclampsia. I found that I had preeclampsia and they just wanted to monitor me to make sure everything was okay. After my hospital stay with that, it was only 2 days and 2 nights. So they just sent me home and I was just on bed rest. I was just, you know, around the house. I probably shouldn't have been doing as much as I was. I was cleaning and preparing for Kai to come home because we just weren't ready and they were telling me that I was not going to go past 37 weeks. So I was like, that means we only got like 4 more weeks to go and then he's gonna be here. So I was preparing around the house, which is probably why things ended up the way they did. But anyway, March 1st, I went in for my 34-week appointment. Like I said, I didn't think anything of it. I thought I was just gonna go in and come out. I was not allowed to drive because I was on bed rest, so my grandma took me and she just dropped me off. She's like, I'll come pick you up later. I'm like, cool. So I go into my appointment, we do the ultrasound, everything looks good. And then I go in for my actual OB appointment, which the nurse came in and she went to check my blood pressure and we were just talking like we normally did. And she's a really nice lady, like, oh my gosh, she was so sweet. And she would always talk to me every time I came in, but this time she did not. After she took my blood pressure, quickly typed it into the computer and almost ran out of the room. And it was really scary for me because I was like, what's going on? Why did you just do that? So immediately my OB comes in, which if you've not been pregnant, you wouldn't know this, but anyone who has been pregnant knows that you're in that office for a little bit waiting for your OB to come in. So the fact that he was in less than 3 minutes was terrifying to me. And he immediately said before he was even in the room, before the door was even shut, you're done. We're admitting you into the hospital. You're going to labor and delivery. So I was scared. My blood pressure was extremely high and that's very dangerous with pregnancy. A lot of things can happen, seizures, I could die, the baby could die, like something bad could really happen. It was really scary and they sent me up to antepartum and that's where you go if they're trying to prevent you from being in labor or you just gave birth and you were on magnesium beforehand and you stay there 24 hours after birth. So there was a lot of other moms in the same situation as me in that area, in that department. Sent me up there, I get checked in, I call my husband, I'm telling him what's going on, you know, they get my IV hooked up, like all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know, we could be having this baby today. Like we could be having this baby any day now. So my OB comes in a few hours later, my husband's there. He goes ahead and takes a leave, from work. You know, things are looking crazy. My OB comes in, tells me I'm going to be there until I deliver, which could be any day. It just depends on my blood pressure. But they want to try to get me to 37 weeks. That's the goal. So we were there for so long, but it was the 9th of March. No, it was like early March 10th. Like it was like 1 in the morning on March 10th. And I started to feel very loopy. We had been there for 10 days at that point and oh my gosh, I was ready to go home. I got really depressed because like you're literally just sitting in that hospital room. And I forgot to mention, we also found out that I had gestational diabetes while I was there. So that sucked and I had to get my finger pricked like 4 times a day. Oh my gosh, it sucked. It sucked so much. I don't recommend staying at the hospital for that long. Yeah, like I said, March 10th, I wasn't feeling well and I called the nurse to ask for some water. And when she came with my water, I asked her to go ahead and check my blood pressure because I just was not feeling well. She asked me my symptoms. I was like, I feel like I'm swaying like back and forth, but I'm not moving. And she checked it and it was dangerously high, like really high. And so she called another nurse to come check it, and they checked it 10 minutes later. They told me to rest. 10 minutes later, it was still high, and we've had a bunch of scares like that up until that point where my blood pressure would be really high, and then they would check it again and it would go down. But this time it didn't do that. So I was 35 weeks and 2 days at that point. No. Yes. And 2 days at that point. They sent me to labor and delivery, and they were like, yeah, you're having this baby. You're gonna be induced. So I was really nervous because I really didn't want to be induced. I wanted to go into labor naturally, but that didn't happen. I already had my IV in for about 3 days at that point, so they had to switch it over to my other hand. So they switched my IV over, and when they switched it over, it was in this hand, and it wasn't bleeding, so they just like put a band-aid over it. And I was like, okay, like, you know, whatever. And then they put the blood pressure cuff on my arm, and the machine started going to check my blood pressure. And as soon as it did, oh my gosh, blood started shooting out of my hand. It was like a horror movie. Like, I've never seen that much blood exit my body in such a manner. It was really bad, and it just felt disgusting, and no one was paying attention at the time, and all I could scream was, I'm gushing, it's gushing. Like, I was freaking out. And the nurse ran over to me because she was like on the opposite side of me, and she started putting pressure on my hand. It hurt so bad, but obviously I didn't care. I just wanted the bleeding to stop. And the machine kept going and pumping more, and like I just kept squeezing more blood out, and it would not stop. Oh my god, it was so scary. I actually got a ton of bruising on my hand from it. You can actually still kind of see like some of the bruising from how hard she had to press on my hand to make it stop bleeding. And it's been 3 weeks since I gave birth, and like it hurt. So yeah, that was fun. I have pictures of like the blood everywhere, but I don't think anyone wants to see that, so I'm not going to show that. I sent them to my mom because I'm like, look at this, they almost killed me. Anyway, well, after that, they took me to labor and delivery after I was all shaken up and just crazy, just ugh. Anyway, so they took me to labor and delivery, and they started getting me settled. The bed in labor and delivery is so much more uncomfortable than the bed in the other antepartum department, and I found that very weird. Like, I thought you would want someone laboring like comfortable, but the beds were so uncomfortable, like, oh no. But when we got there, they went ahead and started me on Pitocin, which is a drug to induce labor if you didn't know. And then they also put in a Foley bulb. I was worried about it more going in. Like, I thought it was gonna hurt so badly, but it didn't. It just felt like a regular cervical check. And of course they checked me, and I wasn't dilated that much at all. I was only like 35 weeks, like I said. But when they put the Foley bulb in and they inflated it, it's a Foley bulb, if you didn't know. It's a little balloon that dilates you to a 3 or a 4 that's inserted into your and it's supposed to, like I said, it's supposed to dilate you to a 3 or 4, and it'll come out when it's ready to, you know, when you're at a 3 or 4. So they inflated it, and it was so painful. Oh my gosh. It was that and Pitocin, because the Foley bulb created cramps like no other, and the Pitocin created contractions like no other. So put them together, I was dying. And the thing is, Kai hated the monitors. So the monitors they put on your stomach to monitor his heartbeat, and like my heartbeat, and like his movement, all that's very important when you're on Pitocin. So you know that the heart rate of the baby is not dropping when contractions or Pitocin is started. So it was very important that we kept him on the monitors. This kid did not like them, and he would move anytime I moved. So I had to sit completely still. I could move my arms, and I could not move, like I could not shift positions. I couldn't move during contractions. And if you've ever had a contraction and you're told not to move, it was hell on earth. I was in so much pain. And my husband was just like freaking out, like I don't know what to do. Like, you know, like you don't know what to do when your significant other is in that much pain. You've never seen them in that intense pain before. So it was bad. It was a few hours later, and they decided to take blood from me, which was stupid on their part, honestly, because I hadn't eaten in like a good bit at that point. And when they tried to take blood from me, I almost passed out because I hadn't eaten. That was a whole nother thing, and I've never felt like I was gonna pass out before, so I was just like, oh, guys, I don't feel very well, and they're like, what do you mean you don't feel good? And I almost, oh, it was awful. I almost passed out. That's another story. And then after that, my Foley bulb was ready to come out, took it out, and I was already at a 4, so that was great. And so my OB came in, he was like, hey, we're going to give you the option to kind of pause the induction, take you off Pitocin, to rest and eat, because I hadn't eaten for a very long time at that point, and there was no way that I could go days without eating, because an induction can take a very long time, especially when the baby's not ready. So I agreed, and I got my food tray. It was already dinner at that point, so I got my dinner tray. I ate. It was great. I wasn't in pain anymore. The contractions almost completely stopped because the Foley bulb and the Pitocin were no more, but I was still out of 4. But I wasn't actually in labor. Does that make any sense? I don't know how to explain it. I was barely having contractions. I was having very small ones, but compared to the ones I was having before, I was good. I was living it up. But anyway, so they were going to start Pitocin at 5 in the morning, but because a lot of babies were being born, there was a lot of emergency C-sections that day as well. I didn't get started back up on Pitocin until 7:30. So they started me back up on Pitocin the next morning, which was the 11th of March at 7:30. We were hoping that I would progress. At that point, I was still out of 4 and really wasn't having any more contractions, even on Pitocin. I forgot to mention, I was also on magnesium. They put me on magnesium back in antepartum, so I was on magnesium this whole time. So magnesium is a drug that makes you relax because it keeps you from having a seizure when your blood pressure is really high, and Pitocin is a drug that makes you contract. So they're not working together. They're actually working against each other. And it was really hard. I was very uncomfortable because of the monitors. And like I said, anytime I would shift or move over, I would be in so much pain, but I couldn't lay on one side or the other for very long because my other leg would go numb from all the pressure of Kai, and just, it was awful. That's when I started talking about C-sections to my nurses. There was already a 70% chance that I was going to have a C-section because of my history and also because of the preeclampsia. It wasn't a very good chance of me delivering vaginally anyway, which I was really disappointed about. But I started to talk to them about it to see what they thought, and they were just like, it's completely up to you. Like, you know, you could labor all day and still make no progress. Also, at this point, Kai was not even in the birth canal. He was not going down, and I was just dilated. Like, I was not progressing whatsoever, and it was very frustrating. So I eventually just decided, hey, call my OB, I want a C-section, I'm done with this. And that was around 2 o'clock. My OB comes in, he's like, hey, what's up? You know, what's going on? And I was like, I think I want a C-section, but I'm like scared. Like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice. And I just kept asking my husband, like, am I making the right choice? Like, is this right? Like, should I be doing this? And he was just like, you know, it's completely up to you. I can't tell you what to do, you know. And we were just kind of weighing out the pros and cons of having a C-section. Eventually, I decided to do it, and at 4 o'clock, they started to prep me for surgery. I wish I could have just done it right then and there, because, like, I was overthinking everything. And I was like, what if, like, this is the wrong choice? Like, what if I could have delivered naturally? Not naturally, but, like, vaginally. And, like, I'm just going in for a C-section, and I gave up too quickly and all of this other stuff. So I wish I would have just done it immediately. So I couldn't think about it. But around 4:50, we were ready to go into surgery, and my husband could not go with me at first. He had to stay in the room and wait until I got the spinal block in and I was like settled in for the surgery. So it was really scary going in by myself, but the nurse that I had with me in the OR, I don't know if she's a nurse or a doctor, somebody, she was so nice, and she stood right in front of me during the spinal block, and I like just hunched over into her arms, and the spinal block is not fun, by the way. She just like told me, instead of me just being blind to like what was going on behind me, she told me everything that was happening, what was going to be happening. So I was like in the loop of what was happening, and I wasn't as scared. Because let me just tell you, the spinal blocks are painful and they're not fun, and they're kind of like the epidural, but a little bit different. It hurt. It felt weird, and I was just hunching over like, ow, ow, ow. She's just like breathing. I'm like, ow. It was awful. And as soon as that spinal block was in, my legs went numb. And like, it was like, it didn't immediately go numb. Like, I couldn't move them, but like, they got tingly. I was like, oh, here we go. Like, no more pain. Now when my legs went numb and they put me back on the table, I was vibing. Like, I was like, yep, this is great. We can't feel no pain. We good. And nothing bad was happening. And then it started moving it to my stomach, and my arms got tingly, and I didn't like that. It was I did not like that at all. And that's when I realized, hey, they're gonna cut you open and pull a baby out, and you're gonna be a mom, and you're about to have major surgery. And my husband wasn't there. So I was completely alone in this weird, off vibe room. Oh my gosh, the vibe was so weird. There's like just rock, they literally had rock music playing in the background. But I guess that's allowed, but they were jamming out in there, and I'm just sitting on the table like, and then my arms were like this with pillows under them, and just, it was a lot it was very overwhelming. And when it hit me that what was about to happen, I panicked, and I was like, guys, I don't feel good, like, again. And my OB was like, Kayla, like, what's wrong, like, you know, what's going on? And I was just like, I can't do this, like, I can't do it. And I just kept saying, I can't do it, I'm scared, where's my husband? Like, I just kept saying that over and over again. And because I had a panic attack, I could not cry because of like the numbing. Like, I could not, like, I was just freaking out, like, oh my gosh. Then I was like, where's my husband? They're like, oh, he's coming. They brought him in. And the last thing I remember was him being across the room from me and being like, it's okay, I'm right here, and coming over and grabbing my hand, and I could barely feel him. Like, it felt tingly, it felt weird, and I was like, I don't know, like, what's going on, like, I'm scared. And then they gave me medicine to calm me down, and everything went foggy, and I don't remember anything after that, which makes me really sad that I don't really remember that. But my memory jumps from that moment, not being able to feel his hand very well, to Kai being pulled out of me, and me seeing him like being pulled out, and me saying like, oh my god, like, that came out of me. But I couldn't really process it at the time, and then they took him away, and my mind went blank again, and I don't remember anything from that point until Kai was brought to me. Now, during that time where my memory jumps, there's a lot of videos from my husband, and there's me, like, you can hear me talking through that entire thing, and I don't remember a thing, and that's like so weird to me. But Kai was not breathing well because he was a 35 weeker. He wasn't developed enough, so like, he wasn't crying, he wasn't moving, he wasn't breathing, he was turning blue, and I was not aware of the situation. So that's really scary, that I was just like in La La Land, like, not even worried about it, and I don't remember that. Wonderful mother, aren't I? It was the drugs, blame the drugs. Anyway, he was fine. They brought him over to me, and I got to see him. There's a video, I'll insert it, I guess, because it's really cute. Okay.
Yeah, there's our baby.
Hi. We're going to check his blood sugar, do his vital signs, make sure he's breathing okay, and then hopefully he can come back downstairs to you if he behaves himself. Okay?
You're so cute.
Says I'm a little frowny face today.
And if you haven't seen the birth vlog, I definitely recommend you go and watch that as well, because that's a doozy as well. Anyway, so after that, they took Kai to the NICU to be checked out, and luckily he did not have to stay in the NICU at all. He was 7 pounds when he was born and 18.5 inches long, so he was a big baby because I had gestational diabetes, and we caught it so late. So, you know, but he was perfectly healthy. My husband and Kai went up to the NICU. I started to come to a little bit more, and because I was like calm, so they started to wean me off whatever drug they put me on. I have no idea what they did, but it worked. I started asking the anesthesiologist, like, hey, what are they doing now? Because he was like above my head. I was like, hey, what are they doing now? And he was like, oh, they're stitching up your uterus. And I'm like, okay, cool. Are they almost done? And he's like, yeah, you know, they just got to do this. I'm like, okay. What are they doing now? Like, he just kept asking questions, and I was like fully aware at that point. They're like, yep, they're almost done. They're stitching up your skin. And I'm like, cool. And I was just chilling. And then after that, I was like, I told my OB, I'm like, I'm so sorry for freaking out. He's like, no, Kayla, you did great. Like, good job. And I'm like, thanks. After that, they moved me onto a different bed, and I felt so weird because I still couldn't feel anything. But my arms weren't as tingly, so I could like move them now and them not feel weird. So I was still numb from like the waist down. So I was chilling, like I was not in any pain whatsoever. And then they wheeled me into this like recovery room. I have no idea what it is. It's like, it was a very little room, not much room. It looked like almost what triage would look like. They wheeled me in there, and they gave me some ice chips. My husband was waiting for me, thank God. They gave me some ice chips, like I said, and like a doof, I ate them, and I got sick so much from eating them because I thought I was nauseous because of the, like, because I don't know, I just thought I was nauseous because I was hungry, so I ate more ice chips. It wasn't the case. I was nauseous because of the ice chips. After we were in triage for about, or I'm gonna just call it triage because I don't know what it's called. It was just a very small room. But we were in there for about an hour and a half, and then they wheeled us down back to antepartum, because like I said, when you're on magnesium, you have to be on magnesium for 24 hours after birth. Magnesium is a hell drug. Oh my gosh, it makes you feel like you're burning on the inside, like from the inside out. And my face looked horrible. I'm gonna show you guys a picture of what I looked like. My face was all blotchy. Like, I'm just gonna show you what I looked like. But anyway, we get up to antepartum, and at that point, it's almost time for Kai to come back from the nursery or the NICU. Get there for 2 hours to do some tests, and so I'm so excited to see him. We get all settled. I puke a few more times. They get me all comfortable, and they start like making sure my magnesium's good and all that kind of stuff, and getting me just all, you know, good to go. And then he gets wheeled in, and I see him for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, that's my kid. And it was so cool just seeing him for the first time and like being able to hold him and like knowing like that's my baby. Like, oh, it was so weird. By the way, if you're wondering where he is, he's in the other room with my husband taking a nap. They're both taking a nap, which means I can film this video. But yeah, that's my crazy birth story. We ended up going home 3 days later. I gave birth at 5:34 that evening. That's when he came out. And yeah, that's my birth story. It's been a crazy one. I was in the hospital for a total of 13 days. And now he's home and healthy. He hasn't really had any complications other than his airway being underdeveloped, which is normal for preemies, so we just have to keep an eye on that. And then he did have a little bit of jaundice, which is why in a lot of his newborn pictures you see him being very yellow and orange. So we got all of his jaundice cleared up and everything. He's doing really well. He weighs 8 pounds 7 ounces now. Last time he was weighed, which let me just tell you, he's a chunky monkey now. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll try to make some more videos and routines. I don't really have a routine. He's a freaking newborn. We don't even have our lives together at this point. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching again, and I'll see you guys next time.